Hey guys, it's Joel from Sinoid. How you guys doing? So I decided to make a beginner's tutorial because I've been getting a lot of emails uh, from our fans saying that they want to learn how to make dubstep, or in this case, this kind of variation of death step. Um, So yeah, of course, I'm more than willing to give back to the EDM community. I mean, I feel super honored because I've been working hard and making my own music with Alex, and it's been a great journey, and I feel like I want to pay it forward and give back. So without further ado, I'm gonna explain from scratch, from getting the DAW and explaining what a DAW is, all the way to um, getting started and making a simple track. And first of all, this is like a little quick track I put together. It's nothing. It's fairly simple. It's nothing major, and it's just for the sole purpose of trying to explain what goes on in our productions. So, first of all, we use an application called Ableton Live. To be more specific, Ableton Live 9. It's the latest installment of Live, and it's what we preference. You can use FL Studio. You can use Logic. You can use any other DAW that you can find out there. Um, However, one certain DAWs will work better than others in preference of workflow. Like if you feel like you work faster or better or you're more comfortable in live, then that's great because I'm gonna do a tutorial in live. But yeah, if you guys ever want to make EDM music, I don't just make dubstep. I make progressive house. I make trance. I make anything else out there that you can think of. I've probably tried to make a variation of it. If not, um, I've tried to really broaden my horizons. So yeah, uh, we're gonna be working in 140 tempo 140, which is this kind of dubstep. We usually work in 140 and above. Um, so one other thing. So when you first get your DAW, and you want to make a track, you gotta know what tempo you're gonna work in. So in this case, yeah, 140. You set up your tracks. Now, these tracks, I'm gonna explain the difference in these tracks. Why? Because there's two kinds of tracks. There's an audio track and there's a MIDI track. Now, for the sake of showing you the difference, I just opened up a MIDI track. The shortcut for that was Shift Command T, and if you want to put in a new track, you can also right click and it'll show you the list of possible options that you have, and there the shortcuts are right there. Um, and a MIDI track for this, of course, I'm going in deep and I'm going to explain exactly what it is since this is a beginner's tutorial. A MIDI track basically is what it stands for is a musical instrument digital interface, and all it does is send a signal to whatever's loaded in that track. So if I decide to put a plugin, what it's gonna do is whenever you trigger your MIDI controller, it'll play. It'll send a signal to the VST plugin and reproduce the sound that's loaded in there. So that's a MIDI track, and then an audio track is simply a track that you must put in. You must have preloaded a sound in there, whether it's a sample or whatnot. Here in this view, it's very difficult to comprehend because with audio tracks within the session view, you're not going to be able to see the sample loaded in unless you've placed it within here or if you place it in the arrangement view. I'm not going to explain the session view because that's mostly for performance. In live is heavily catered to performance. So most of us are interested in just producing the music. I really don't. I've long since grown out of the session view and using it to produce my music because I feel like I just prefer to go straight into the arrangement view and um, and just put it in there. So for the sake of that, we're gonna go ahead and go into the arrangement view. However, bear in mind that this is the mix window. This is what I like to also call the mix window. A lot of other DAWs have what they call mix window. In Ableton, it's called the second window. Um, but yeah, keep in mind, I have a drum track here, a sub bass, a main bass, a stereo bass, two stereos, and panned, fill basses, and then this audio track was for the sake of showing, which I'll show you now. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go into the arrangement view. So this is the infamous and very common arrangement view. It just shows you from the starting point of the song all the way towards however long your song will be. And now what confuses a lot of people is now we've gone from a vertical track view to a horizontal track view, which is I mean fairly common in other DAWs, except that Ableton has placed them to the right, some are to the left. They're just the same shit. Don't worry about it. Don't get scared. And then we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you how the difference. This is a MIDI clips, and it's their MIDI tracks. And when I expand them, you're gonna see that these black lines they're actually MIDI. They're kind of small right now because we're zoomed out, but these MIDI clips belong on MIDI tracks. Yet if we place a sample, let's go to our sample library and find a sound. For example, I'll just put in a kick, and you're gonna see, drag it in there, and suddenly you can see that there's a waveform in there, and this is an audio clip, and they belong on audio tracks. So that is the big difference between these two types of tracks and what they're able to do. So this one reproduces a sound from a pre-recorded sample, while the MIDI track will use MIDI to trigger it. Now, I know you're probably saying, okay, you know, I've never really used a DAW, so what is MIDI? And even though I explained the acronym, you're probably wondering, you know, okay, I want to actually see MIDI. So this is MIDI. MIDI, it basically is a representation of a triggered note. So this is me triggering this note for this length of time, which is, if you look right here, a 16th note. Right now, this is a 16th note grid, so this means that every division here is a 16th note. And then here, you're going to see the length of this. This is actually a 4-bar clip. And this is a playhead. So right now, since I arranged the song, it's going to be played from this point here forward. If I were to place it over here, it would play from that point forward. However, since I made a modification within the arrangement, it will play from this instance forward. So this is called the loop brace. It loops from this point to that point. So if it won't play this because the playhead will has overrided the loop brace's I'm lost for words. Yeah, it's basically not gonna respect the loop rates because the playhead has higher priority. So yeah, I'm not gonna dive in too deep. I'm just gonna try and explain what goes on and how everything works. Um, yeah. So that's some of the DAW. We've explained that. Yeah, we need the DAW in order to even start. However, I highly suggest if you're gonna start making electronic music, it's heavily sample based. This kind of music needs to get out quick. So I used to try and like make synthesize my own kicks, and then I discovered years ago that why am I doing that when there's awesome samples that exist out there. A Vengeance Essential House Volume 1, awesome sample pack. Find it on the internet. Either buy it if you want to be a good patron, or download it, torrent it if you want, or get it from a friend if you have awesome friends. And they come preset with a bunch of things that are highly necessary, such as hall kicks, reverses, sweeps, um, percussion, snares, claps, kicks, cymbals, all necessary. And if you get a good look at this, these are some of the libraries that we have for our drums. I really don't. I'm not really into using snippets of like melodies and stuff like that. I fuck that. I'm sorry. I don't like that. So I rather use my Massive, which is my tool of choice. This, find it on the internet. Buy it if, like I said, if you want to be a loyal customer. This is an example of all the set of VSTs, audio units that we have, plugins. Quick tip: difference between VSTs and audio units is that audio units is used in for Apple OSs. Specifically, VSTs are cross-compatible between Windows systems and Apple products. That is really the only difference. You're gonna find some other stuff on the internet like Artaz. That's for Pro Tools. Basically, just search for plugins. Ones that I highly recommend is Complete 8. It'll bring all these. However, I only really use Massive and FM8. I hardly use. I mean, the real only thing I love to use from here is like Massive and Contact. I've used FM8. However, I'm not too fluid with it. I can use it. I can get some stuff out of it. However, it's just I feel like the workflow. I'm really not productive with it because I haven't practiced on it. You can use any VSTs out there. It's just you gotta practice them. Yeah, just go ahead and search these up, and if you can manage to get any of these plugins, great. However, like I said, Massive, super duper uber important if you want to make dubstep. I really highly recommend it, especially for beginners. Now I've talked enough. I'm gonna show you what I've made here. I'm gonna break it down as easily as I can. So here we go. So yeah, that was that. So I'm gonna break this down for you. What you need. If you have pen and paper, if you work like that, please write this down to see if it helps. Because I know maybe sometimes it doesn't get you don't get it if like you just see it on the computer. But I'm gonna explain to you the song structure of dubstep, which is very I mean, music has really evolved because honestly, it used to be like, you know, you have your drums, your bass, your chords, and then your melody. However, in this kind of music, that's kind of like breaks all the rules. You still have your drums, but then the bass itself, you need a sub bass, meaning a really low bass. It's gonna be living. It's not gonna even. It's not even supposed to pass 100 hertz. So this is gonna be a sub bass, a very low note. If I show you the MIDI, You see, C0 is a pretty low note. It's gonna be like here. So dubstep, heavy bass music, you need your sub bass. I'm gonna show you what that consists of. You open up Massive. It's just one oscillator working right now. This is both of these are turned off. Turn off. Okay. Sine based. So this wavetable is purely sine. I chose the sine. It's going through a low pass filter just in case I ever want to filter it or mess with it. Has full sustain, meaning that when I play this note and I hold down the note and I hold down the MIDI, it's not gonna lose amplitude or volume, whichever you want to call it. I have this set on trigger zero reset, meaning that the MIDI, if it's ever triggered again and the MIDI's all together, it will trigger once again as if it's being played once more, because the tendency of MIDI being placed close together is that it'll just play all throughout without re-triggering. It'll just be like a sustained note. Sorry if that's a little vague. I'm trying to make this video not too long so it's not like overbearing and boring. So yeah, check out the MIDI. I separated just a bit so it emphasizes the reset. If you notice, let me set up this right here. Okay. I've gone to an eighth note grid so you can see the divisions. As you notice, this pattern is gonna follow the same bass pattern as your main bass of choice. So your main synthesized bass is gonna, if this is the pattern, it's gonna follow the same pattern as the sub bass, same pattern as this, same pattern as that. It's much like a groove. Create your own groove and see how it goes. The main bass is this is important for the mix. I have my main bass, which is a mono bass. It's gonna be living right in the middle of your track. If you guys don't really understand stereo image, I suggest you do some research on that. I'm really trying to give you everything all in one video, but this is a process. So one thing you should research is stereo image, so you understand what mono and stereo is. Basic breakdown: mono, middle of the song. It's like in the middle of the field of music. It's right in the middle. Stereo is wide. It's gonna give you stereo gives you a sense of space, a sense of width of the track, something that kind of covers and fills the song. So the tendency I have to do, my technique, my secrets, is I leave this one in mono, and then I create another one in stereo. I change it up. I detune the sound. I make it stereo. I say to myself, you know what? It's not wide enough. And suddenly there's no rules in music anymore. And I say to myself, okay, I'm going to make this a stereo song. A stereo sound. And I'm also going to pan it and make another track and then pan it to the right. Panning. Panning is moving the sound within the stereo image. If you guys want to know exactly what that is, once you get your DAW, once you get a sound going, pan it, and you're gonna understand what that means. Hopefully, you have some speakers, some monitors that are not they're not internal speakers within a MacBook or anything like that, or or a laptop, because you're gonna really truly understand. Maybe if you put on headphones and you pan, you're gonna understand the concept of panning. If you guys don't know what that is. Other than that, then I have another bass here that kind of like interrupts the song on the downbeat after 8 bars. Song structure, also try and learn that song structure, song arrangement. Know what a 4 bar, 8 bar, 16 bar Um, really quick, really quick. Rule here is in music, the tendency is that you must, after an 8 bar count, change up, do something different, especially with EDM music. After every 8 bars, when you count 8 bars, you're gonna see that in here there'll be a sweep, or there'll be some kind of variation, because after 8 bars, the human tendency, what people want is to hear a difference, something different. And unless the music calls for heavy repetitiveness, it's natural within EDM that every 8 bars you're either gonna have a sweep, you're gonna have a drum fill, you're gonna have some sort of change in the progression, something. Um, so uh, what else is there? So okay, to start, get your DAW, get samples. You must have drum samples. Find one of those Vengeance packs out there. They're spread all over the internet. Torrent them. Use a file share hosting site from somebody. Get your plugins. Get Massive somehow. At the very least, Massive. You can create an entire song with Massive. I can guarantee that. Um, oh, one thing I didn't go over. I'm sorry. I love using this drum rack. I made a drum rack. I can save it using this button, so you can have your own drum rack. Make sure you do that. What you need, kick. You must have a kick. You must have a snare. I love using rides on my kicks. Um, hats are closed hats. Closed hats are good. I'm just gonna solo so you can hear that and understand what's going on. So you saw, this is the pattern. This is a typical dubstep pattern. Um, Kicks, keep them tight. Use a MIDI that's like an eighth note in length, no more than that. Um, Unless the music you make calls for a kick that's like layered over a sub bass, that's like a long kick, like I don't know, trap, or like an 808 kind of thing, or I don't know. If you want a kick that's prolonged, then you extend the MIDI and it plays the entire sample. Um, but yeah, kick, snare. If you're just starting out, you want to learn. All you need is kick and a snare. Uh, Later on, you can mess with hi hats. Usually, you put them in like an eighth note progression, like really fast, and you can add some delay on them and make them really stereo and sound cool and all that. Crashes. Um, yeah. So this is a basic pattern. Make sure you have it at 4 bars. Um, and yeah, you can make a basic 4 bar pattern. You make it repeat. Uh, it's gonna repeat every 4 bars. Here between 1 and 2, 4 bars. Here 4 bars. Here 4 bars. So yeah, you repeat that. You loop it. You create it. You want to create a MIDI clip. You highlight. You can double click. You can oops. Right click. Yeah, right click. I don't know what happened there. Insert MIDI clip, or you can learn the shortcuts. But if you're confused, you're super duper confused. You're like, how do I make a MIDI clip? Well, remember, you gotta highlight. It happened to me all the time when I was starting out, so I had to learn the hard way. You do that, easy, really easy. You go to an edge, turns into a brace, and you can move it like magic. This right here is a loop brace. It will save you a lot of time. If you need something to be looped, you can move it with the brace. You can actually move it itself like that over to another section. Um, but yeah. What else? Yeah. So you can start, however, you can start with the drum. If you're a more drum oriented person, you start with the drums, you loop it, and then you can create the sounds afterwards. Um, if not, if you're more like, oh, I'm more of a drop kind of person, I love the sound design of dubstep, and that's where I start, then start there. Um, Dubstep, this kind of dubstep lives on like basically one note and modulation. Um, it can be very chromatic, meaning that like it has no real key or scale. However, I'm a very music theory oriented person. I tend to like to know what key I'm in, but when it comes to dubstep, there's really no, unless there's a melody going on, then you must respect the key and the scale of the song much more. Um. Anyways, there's always gonna be a key. So I don't know. I'm not really gonna go into music theory in this tutorial. However, I really hope this has helped somewhat. It's really hard to just encompass like an entire startup of acquiring a DAW, the samples, explaining all these instruments and components. Um, I kind of wanted to get you started on like what everything is, where everything is oriented. If you have further questions, let me know by email or Instagram or reach out to me. However, I will do my best to try and make a tutorial that will be best catered to you. Sorry if I talk too much. I try to make these tutorials as short as possible. However, it's very difficult to compress so much time. So much information in so little time. Um, but yeah, so if you have any further questions, more specific questions, I think that would help. I try to cover a broad uh, array of subjects in getting started. So yeah, if you want anything more detailed, just reach out to us. All right. So hope this has helped. Thank you.